Hey everyone, and welcome to this video. Today I will show you how you can host a Next.js static site on S3 and deal with all the gotchas that exist whenever you are doing exactly that. So I'm gonna boot up a new site here. So I'm gonna call npx create next app, and I'm gonna call my app cool. All right, after creating the project, I'm gonna cd into cool and I'm gonna open my editor. And I'm inside the editor, I'm gonna go into my index.js page and then I'm gonna I'm gonna remove the import on the image component because I'm gonna be creating a static site, and for that I can't use the image component. So I'm gonna replace that. And then I'm gonna remove this warning from ESLint. And I can't actually do that because I'm inside JSX, so I'm just gonna ignore that. And I'm actually gonna be creating a next link in here. And I'm gonna create a link that's gonna point to /cool. And yes, I also need to import a link from next link. And the reason why I'm adding this stuff is because I want to show you how when you deploy a site to S3, there's something going on with the routing that doesn't work. So I'm just going to make sure that our app can actually route. So let me just open up the development environment so we can have a look. Now let's create our cool route. Let's see if we can navigate to cool. All right, that seems to work. Now I'm also going to create a dynamic route. So inside my pages folder, I'm going to create a folder called cool items. And here I'm going to create a dynamic route. Just going to call it ID with these brackets around. And here I'm just going to export default a paragraph tag that says a secret cool item. All right. So let me go back to index page and then add a link to that one. Secret cool item. Cool items 1. Okay. Let's see if we can navigate. Secret cool item. And we can also navigate to on the cool guys here. Okay, cool. That's working. Now we're ready to deploy our site. And in order to deploy, we need to first run yarn build. And while that's building, we can create a new script called export. Oh, we are getting some errors here because there are some strict modes enabled. So if there's some ESLint errors, we might actually not be able to build. So let's just try to fix these. Component definition is missing. Okay. Actually, let's just fix this. So const cool export default cool. Okay. And this for this one, we're gonna call it const cool item export default cool item. And we need to remember to always do default exports when we're working with page components in Next.js. Now back to our package JSON. In here, I'm gonna add a next export script. So whenever we are finished building, we can export it. Yarn export. All right, so now we have our exported build here. And I can actually upload this one to S3. So let's jump into Amazon Web Services and into the S3 console. And here I'm going to create a new bucket. I'm going to call it cool Nextjs site. And I'm just going to host this one in EU West 1. Doesn't matter too much. I'm going to put block all access. That looks fine. And just going to press create bucket. After creating it, I'm going to navigate in here and I'm going to upload the files from my Nextjs site. So if you're opening up Finder, we can find all the files here and we can mark them and then just drag them in. Press upload. All right, cool. After we uploaded our files, we can now go to properties, I believe, then scroll down and then go to this option, static website hosting, and then press enable on that one. And yeah, we can just put the defaults here because Next.js is indeed generating an index HTML file for our entry point and an error HTML for errors. Let's save that. And now it should generate a link here. Let's try to visit that link. Boom, we get an access denied. All right, so in addition to this, we need to go to our permission, or actually we need to go to our bucket, and then let's go to permissions, and then add a access control list in here that says we are allowed to read. Save this, and now we should be able to. Now let's try to click actions, then press make public. All right, let's try to refresh, and now we can see our web page. Okay, that's cool. Let's check out the links. Cool is working, only cool guys here. Trigger cool item, save cool item is working as well. Okay, cool, that's working. Now let's try to go to /cool directly here and then see what happens. Oops. Now we get this access denied 403 whenever we do this. And this error message is a little bit misleading. If I go back to my URL here and I add 8.html at the end, you can see it's loading and I get to the right place. Now, what happens if I try to access cool items? One. Yeah, I get a similar issue, right? 403. But if I, instead of one, put id.html in here, I should be able to get to secret cool item, okay? So there, it's okay if we're just visiting the main home page and then navigate from there. But if we're going to a sub route, we're gonna have a problem. And to fix that, we need to do something inside um, our settings here. So right now everything is public. That's okay. We can change it later. But let's go to the CloudFront service and let's add a CloudFront instance to this one. So actually I have one from previous test here. I'm just going to disable that one. All right, let's press create distribution. Let's jump into this free service in a new tab and then go to a cool site, go to properties, and then copy this link, go back to CloudFront and then put it up here, okay? And remove the HTTP part. Just remove that one. And then here you can choose where protocol, and if HTTPS, we need a certificate. So I'm just gonna put match viewer, then you can figure it out by itself. If I scroll down here, there don't seem to be anything else. Something here that will be nice is to restrict access, so you have to go through CloudFront to actually see your site. But we're just gonna leave it at that for now. And then let's try to press create. All right, after it is done deploying, I can now grab this domain name and try to visit my website. All right, so I'm back again, and well, I can visit the URLs. I can do as I did before. If I try to go to /cool directly, I'm gonna get the same error. So what actually has improved now? Well, we have put a CDN in front of our site, so it's faster. But that is not the main feature of CloudFront. What we would like to get from CloudFront is we would like to go to behaviors, sorry, then go in here and then actually add a Lambda Edge function. This is the function that is gonna make our site work. So let's create this Lambda Edge function, and for that I need to go to Lambda, and I need to make sure I am in the Northeast or US East 1 region, because that's where Lambda Edge functions work. And I'm just gonna create a new function. I'm gonna call it cool Nextjs Lambda Edge. And I'm gonna be using Node. I'll just create one from scratch. All right. Obviously, it's not the best way to create Lambda functions. Like, you should be in a local environment when deploying these, and preferably have TypeScript and everything. But I'm just gonna be creating the function that we need for Lambda Edge in order to get this working in JavaScript. So, all right, so let's go. So first we're going to find a variable called request, and here I'm going to exit the event parameter, and we don't know this because no typings, but under events we have a record, and we're just going to grab the first one, and here there's a CF property, and under here there is a request property. Now I can define a URL parameter, which is going to be request.uri. All right, so far so good. Now, before moving any further, I'm just going to go outside this handler and create a regex. And I'm just going to copy paste a regex that I have on my other screen here. And basically what this regex does, it checks for any type of extensions in our URL. Okay, so after the dot, if there's something, then we know there's an extension. Okay, so here we're going to check if we have a URL coming in, and also we're going to check on our URL whether it matches this has extension regex. And if it doesn't match it, so if there is no extension, then it's time to change the URI. And to do that, we're going to access request, and then we're going to access URI, and then we're going to change it. And for us, it's going to be changed like this. Let's see. URL, and then we're going to put HTML at the end. Okay, so we are changing up the URL a little bit here. And yeah, I think that should be it. It's not URI here. Right? I'm also getting a warning. It should be URL. Yeah. Okay. Down here we have some dummy code. We can actually remove this. And then at the end, we're going to return request. Okay. So here we have a little cute Lambda function. And yeah, that should be what we need. So let's just deploy this one. And then before we go ahead and add it to our CloudFront instance, we need to just get the permissions right. So that's the thing when you're working inside AVS, you need to make sure the permissions are good. So we're just going to jump to the IAM console, and we do this by pressing the execution role here. And then in here, we're going to add a trust relationship. Okay. So we're going to need the Lambda Edge trust relationship in here. So right now we have Lambda. So we need the Lambda Edge trust relationship. All right, it's edge lambda amazonavs.com. Okay, let's just grab that one and then put it in here and press update. All right, cool. Jumping back to the Lambda, let's make sure that we go up here and we could press deploy to Lambda Edge, but we can also just publish a new version. And let's just call it version 1. Press publish. Then we can copy the iron, go back to CloudFront. And in here, we can put that right here and don't include the body and then just press save. Okay, so now if we jump back to distributions, we should be seeing the deploying once again. And after this is done, let's try to access our site. All right, so after it's done deploying, we can try to access our site again. So let's grab this URL. Let's open up one of these tabs and then paste in that URL. Let's see if everything is working as usual. It seems like it is. Now let's try to go directly to cool. Oh, okay, so that worked. So it seems like our Lambda Edge did fire and added that .html at the end. So our URL stays clean, but it still works. But what about cool items one? What about that one? That one's still not working. So yeah, in order to actually get dynamic routes to work, we have to change up our code a little bit. And if we want to do that, we need to have actually a list of dynamic domains in here so we know when we should act upon it. So I'm just going to add a array here of the dynamic domains. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Let's go to the latest one. Go here. Let's make one called dynamic routes. And in here, I'm going to put in, oh, not admin, I'm going to put in cool items. All right. And I'm actually going to join them by this one. And you'll see why in a moment. So down here, I'm going to make an if check here. And I'm going to check if our URL matches uh, yeah, URL.match, and then I'm gonna put in my dynamic routes here. So because I'm joining with this pipe, I actually created a regex now that just checks for this string in the URL. All right. So if you have a dynamic route, I'm not gonna just add .html at the end. I'm actually gonna do something else, which is I'm gonna set the request URI. I'm gonna set it to, we're gonna do backticks again here. Here I'm gonna put in URL, and then I'm gonna take a substring of that URL, and then I'm gonna go to the last index of the last slash, and then I'm gonna add slash, and then I'm gonna add id.html. Okay. So remember before, whenever we have dynamic route, because we call that dynamic route ID, we can access it by doing this. Okay. So let's deploy this and see if this is enough to get our Lambda Edge function working, also for dynamic URLs. Gonna deploy the changes. Gonna create a new version here. Just gonna call version 2. Gonna copy that iron. I'm gonna jump back into CloudFront. I need to go to behaviors, go in here. So this is a little bit of a manual process. I could also use that shortcut to just deploy it directly, but this is okay. Gonna save changes. And then after we're done deploying, I'm gonna have another look to see if it works. Right, after it's deployed, let's actually try to go to cool items node 1 and there you go. Now we're actually on this page directly. That's pretty awesome. Let's try to go to cool to see if it's still working. Still working. And the front page is also working. Okay, so here we go. That's a way that we can deploy a static site to S3 and still have the routing working for most cases anyway.